right? Let's see which scene I want to switch to. Yep, I'll do this one. Oh, I'm already broadcasting. That's okay. Okay, here we are. Hello. Good afternoon. This is DGSD 395 Applied Digital Studies, and I am a little bit late getting started. I was chatting with Emily here, but I'm ready to go now, and I wanted to take a few minutes in class for everybody so I could talk a bit about what's coming up and explain a few things in the announcement that I sent earlier, like a few minutes before class. Let me see if I can. I'm going to switch it so you all can see the stream on your screens, hopefully. It's sort of coming along. Yeah, there it goes. Okay, good. So, or you can see my screen anyway. But if you, like those of you here, if somebody in Discord is telling me something, make sure you please let me know. All right, cool. So if you're watching on the stream, then make sure you say hi. Looks like many of you already did. So hello, all of you, Crystal, Alex, Sally, Maggie, Michaela, Samantha, Brian, DJ, and Siobhan. Today I'm going to take a few minutes to talk about some things, but then it won't be 50 minutes. So there will be time to work on your proposals or your projects or whatever else you still need to be working on right now. So let me switch over here. First of all, I have entered feedback from many of you, but not all of you. The rest of you I should finish either tonight or tomorrow. So bear with me on that. But I think those of you who I've actually talked to most of you at some point in some form about your project. So I have a good sense of what you're doing, and I've given you at least some informal feedback. But I'm going to give you some more formal feedback at least, so you can have that as you get started on your project. A couple of notes about those, or just general comments, right? So first of all, can you all hear me okay on here? I think I'm streaming. It looks like I am. Okay, so I'm going to just assume it. I'm going to assume it's okay, but if it's not, let me know. In several of the proposals that I've reviewed and I've given feedback, there were parts missing or that seemed underdeveloped, and I made sure to note that in those feedback videos that I'm creating. What I would like for you to do, if that was the case, is in your first progress report, which is due on Monday, fill in those gaps or flesh out those areas of the proposal that were underdeveloped. So one in particular was prior work. If you didn't have a prior work section, or it was kind of thin, or if I noted that it was kind of not done right or not done well enough, please redo that or do that now to add that to your progress report on Monday. That's really important because a lot of you are trying something new or trying something that you've never done before. And in some cases, I'm worried that you're trying it, but not really, you kind of don't know what the thing is. Like, you don't know much about the thing. So I want to make sure you know about the thing that you're trying to create. And that's what the prior work section can do. There are two kinds of prior work that you should be looking for. First of all, things that are about the topic. And then second of all, things that are like the thing you're making. So if you're interested in, like, let's say, for example, you're making a podcast about climate change. You should know about podcasts and you should know about climate change. These are two topics that have been addressed by other people. So make sure you know about podcasts, make sure you know about climate change. So hopefully that makes sense. But if you're not sure where to look for these kinds of things, let me know and I can help. Like, I can probably point you to things that I know of, or just categories of things that I know of that can hopefully help you find those things. All right, so if you're and I gave you that direction in the videos that I've been uploading. So if you weren't sure if I really needed that, then just feel free to ask. It's okay. I don't mind explaining again. Okay, so the other thing, I do want to talk a bit about the progress report, but before that, I wanted to explain what's going on next week, basically, at this point, which is that this class, as I mentioned in the announcement here, this class, I mean, you don't know this is the first time you've taken this class, but this is a class that I've taken a lot out of just because there wasn't time to do it justice, and honestly, I was kind of redesigning it and trying to reevaluate what was the best fit for certain things and whether or not they fit, basically. Basically, I took out a lot of programming that I did last year and a novel. We had a whole other book, like a whole book we read. So I took those things out, and so I'm left with a little bit of room here. And I have several things that I still want to talk about, but I want to see what's going to be the most interesting and most helpful for you. And so I've created a quiz to let you, or it's a survey, to let you, I guess, exercise democracy, since it's that time of year, and let me know what you think, what you would like to learn more about or hear me talk about over the next couple of days of class. The idea is not to add more work to your workload. Like right now, you should be focusing on your project, These would be things that would take place in class primarily. Little, if any, homework or prior work, things to do between classes. Of course, between means something different if you're doing things asynchronously, but you know what I mean, hopefully. This is not meant to be a huge amount of work. But what I'm thinking of is at least one lecture from me, maybe two, and then at least one and maybe two exercises or activities that you can complete to help you learn some more and demonstrate your learning about one of these topics. So I can say a bit more about some of these if the descriptions here aren't clear, but the first two are kind of content-based. Like these are things that I want to tell you about or that I think are important to know about or just interesting. So the first is hacktivism or digital direct action. I think of this as something that is is kind of a step farther than what a lot of you are doing, which is fine. Like I don't necessarily recommend hacktivism. What I'm talking about is like actually manipulating or doing things to disrupt power structures through direct action in a digital context. So that could mean literally hacking, but it could also mean doing other things that are somewhat more disruptive than what many of you are doing, which is, I mean, again, good. I don't want you to do these necessarily. I think knowing that it exists is a good idea. For example, I don't know if I can pull it up here easily, but maybe you heard this. This was a kind of a brief news item. I think it was yesterday or the day before, but DonaldJTrump.com got hacked. And so there was a message posted there saying, send me Bitcoin, basically. It's a typical kind of thing. What was kind of interesting about it, and I don't have it pulled up, but it's, yeah, it's not on this computer. It's on this computer, but the message said something along the lines of, we've got all this secret information about the Trump family. Should we release it or not? If you think yes, then send money to this Bitcoin wallet. If you think no, send money to this other Bitcoin wallet, and then we'll let the people decide. I'm pretty sure it was a scam. It seems like a scam. I doubt they had anything. They were just hoping for people to send them Bitcoin to both of those wallets, and that was the plan. But that's not exactly what I'm looking at. I think that was literally just a scam, like a criminal. But there are more interesting examples of digital activism that cross lines ethically or legally, but have good intentions, and perhaps we should embrace or at least respect in some ways. So I could talk about several examples of those. One of them I was trying to find earlier and I couldn't find it. The link seems to be gone, but it's not exactly hacking, but it was a game where there's a web-based video game you can play where you have to try to perform searches like on a fake search engine, and you have to avoid getting flagged as a potential terrorist by the NSA. So the NSA is this organization, and then their PRISM program did, or maybe still does, monitor internet traffic and look for keywords that alert them. This is alleged, but allegedly these keywords will alert them that here's a potential target that we need to track. So you might be tracked by them if you use certain keywords in your searches. So there was a video game that let you try that, and it would let you try to avoid using their words. Like you had to guess which was a safe word to use and which was a flag word. And if you get too many flag words, it actually opens another tab and completes a Google search for you with those flag words. So it effectively, its argument is that it puts you on the list if you fail the game. So that's a kind of hacktivism in the sense that it's actually taking a direct action. I think that is pretty interesting. I think other examples of direct action could rise to the level of cyber warfare. So these are things I'm interested in, and I would be happy to talk about if that's interesting to you, or even if it's related to one of your topics. I don't think it is. I can't really think of anyone doing something like this, but maybe that would be interesting to you. The other thing, just I don't know. This one's a bit more amorphous, a bit harder to describe. But when we think about things like Facebook, Twitter, when we complain about content that shouldn't be there, when we notice that they should do better, one of the things that they're doing is they're hiring armies of content moderators to look at content. When you flag something, you say, hey, this is graphic violence, that sends that image to someone who looks at it and decides, yes, it is, or no, it isn't, and then they take that action. So this has been the subject of some journalistic reporting. Like the people actually doing that are often, there's a lot of turnover in that job. The people who do that work are traumatized by that experience because their job is to sit there and look at graphic violence or child pornography over and over again all day. So you can imagine how horrible that would be. So that's part of a bigger argument that I'm trying to make in some other context, that a lot of times when we think about artificial intelligence or automatic decision making, we're really talking about someone else doing that. So we're talking about paying someone to do these things for us, and often the person that gets paid for that isn't paid well, or isn't compensated fairly, or is harmed in ways that aren't immediately obvious by that job. So that's something that I'm interested in. It's something that I don't know if anyone has a topic related to that, but I would like to talk about it. The other ones are a bit more, I guess, practical. These are things that you might be thinking about or might be helpful as you're developing your project. So I'm kind of leaning towards these two just because of the practical outcome, but I hope that you'll think about all of them. So designing for interactivity, many of you are doing something that will have an interactive component, video game or otherwise, and so there are some basic design patterns and considerations that you should be thinking about as you do that, and I can show you some things and help you hopefully do that well. That's my intention there. Also, a lot of you are interested in data, or you have graphs and other sorts of visualizations that you want to put into your content, and that, again, is something that I think I can help you do well, or I can help you do better than you might have otherwise. So that's what I could do some content around over the next week. So let me know, and this no strong preference just means you don't care, whatever, and that's a valid choice too. Another choice, question 2, is the write-in option. If there's something that you really want me to cover that isn't expressed on this list, then put that there, and then that will be an option too. Maybe, we'll see. If everyone writes in the same thing, of course I'll do that, but if it's a lot of things, then we might have to do another round or something. But I'm suspecting that many of you won't have a strong preference, but that's fine too. So please do this by today if possible. Do any of you have any questions about these topics, or what I might cover in them, or how that might go? And this is for the stream as well. While you're thinking about that, so Maggie has a question on the stream. Maggie Maralka has a question. Do we need to resubmit an edited proposal with our corrections, or just add it in the progress report? Just put it in the progress report. So you don't need to resubmit your proposal unless you completely change your idea to something entirely different. And I don't think anyone is. I haven't talked to anybody who's planning to do that yet, I don't think. So, but that would be kind of a worst case scenario, really. So as long as you're just updating or clarifying something, then put that in the progress report. Okay, so any questions about the options that I've got listed here? All right. Actually, let's see how it's going. See if anyone's done it yet. All right, interesting. Okay, so I mean, this is anonymous, so I don't know, but I think it's anonymous. Anyway, it should be. I'm not going to look at it unless I need to follow up with someone, but it looks like so far Hacktivism is 5, offshore content moderation is 1, designing for interactivity is leading with 8. It will, like, this is an ungraded survey, so the first one is not really the correct answer. That's just how Canvas displays this, so don't worry about that. But it looks like designing for interactivity is leading with 8 right now, which is good. And it looks like I've got some responses here. Are those that could be null responses? Maybe not. Okay, I guess I'll have to look at those later, because I don't remember how to look at them. I don't remember how to pull that up in this view. So I'll look at that later. But if there is an idea that you really want to argue for, you can certainly do that in person, those of you here, or if on the stream, if there's one you want to really advocate for. Those of you here today, what do you think? Any strong preferences? No? Okay, that's fine. Okay, good. So let me talk a bit about the progress report and some other things coming up. So the first progress report has, I've updated the description here to give you some more detail about this. This is it's a pretty important thing, so I want to make sure you have what you need in order to do it well. This is meant to be a memo, and I'm kind of, if you recall the proposal, I've described that as a formal kind of document, something that you would do in the context of technical writing. And a memo is the same kind of thing. It's an inter-office memorandum. It's a communication. It's a business kind of communication. If you've never done a memo before, think of it, it's kind of like a paper email, although everything is going to be digital here for this class, obviously. But it's kind of like an email, honestly, but it's going to be a bit more developed. There's slightly differences. There are slight differences in ways people recommend formatting them. I found this WikiHow article, and honestly, it's pretty good. I mean, I would just say, if you've never done a memo before, take a look at this. it does tend to be somewhere less formal than a business letter. It tends to be somewhat terse in the way it's written, right? So there's advice, if you read through this, there's advice about both the formatting and the writing style. So I think this is all pretty good. I think even if you start, let me see if I can, I don't use Microsoft Word much, but do we have it on here? What? How do I not have Word on here? I think, yeah, here it is. I don't care. Let's see. Is that it? Yeah, okay. So I don't know if this will actually work, but I was going to show you in Microsoft Word, you can oftentimes, there it is. You can oftentimes find a memo template. I think that's what these are, right? Resume, cover letter, brochure, trifold, fashion brochure, memo. There we go. Okay, this looks cool, I guess. So you don't have to have a logo, but the main thing, or you don't have to put flowers on the bottom. But hopefully you can see it okay on the stream. The idea is simply that this is, I mean, you've got a to, a from, a subject, and a date. Well, this doesn't have a date, but you usually would have a date. Date. So what is Monday going to be? 1 November 2020, whatever that is. And then you would write it in a pretty direct way, sign it with your initials, add in any attachments like you would in an email as a second or third or fourth page. The attachments, in this case, I do want your timesheet, so the log of how you've spent your time so far. Also, if you needed to expand any part of your proposal, that might make sense as an attachment if it's a separate, like long enough to justify making it a separate document. Honestly, don't stress out too much about the formatting of this. I'm not going to critique it in terms of that. I just want you to know the genre of memo writing. It is a way of writing. It's a kind of inter-office communication. And it usually has a format kind of like this, where you have a to and a from and a subject. And it's kind of like an email in that sense, but usually a bit longer and a bit more formal. So anyway, hope that makes sense. If you have any questions about that, let me know. But honestly, the basic advice is don't stress out too much about it, because the point is really the content. So I want to see what you've been doing. Okay, good. So lastly, before I wrap up the stream, another thing I'd like to talk about is coming up a bit later, but I wanted to go ahead and tell you about it. This is the peer teaching. So this is something that just logistically has not made sense for this class yet. It is something that usually occupies like 2/3 of this class's time, which is peer teaching. And I like peer teaching. This is where I ask students to teach each other things. Because when you teach someone something, you get to know it a lot better, and that's just a simple fact. I mean, in order to explain it well enough in order to explain it to someone, you have to understand it well enough that you can do that easily. And so I think it's a good thing to do. Also, I think it's in some cases better to learn from different people. Like I can stand here and talk, but I only have my own words, my own voice, my own way of talking, and that may or may not connect with everybody the same way. But if you hear from more people, you have a better chance of learning, I hope. So especially when we get to difficult content or concepts, things with programming, working with software, that kind of thing, seeing someone that you're used to sitting next to explain something to you, and sometimes it just makes a lot more sense that way. So I think there's a lot of value to that. Unfortunately, we haven't had as much time to do that in this section. It just has been impractical. But I do want you to do this twice, and I've scheduled 2 dates for each of you to do this. And so these are differentiated due dates. So I'm looking at, right now, this is the first peer teaching assignment, and about half of you are assigned to do this on the 11th, half of you are assigned to do this on the 13th. And then for the second peer teaching assignment, it's the week after that. So it's the same thing, where it's about half of you on both of those days. And for the most part, if you were you're on a Wednesday for both of them or a Friday for both of them, but there's a couple that I switched around. I don't remember why, but it made sense when I was looking at the spreadsheet. So if you look at this right now and you know that you definitely won't be able to do this on this particular day, then you can request moving that around. Just request that as soon as possible so that I can make that adjustment. As you can see, there are at least 3 options. These are the 3 options I can think of. If you can think of another option, let me know. I think someone did suggest something, and I don't remember what it was, but I think it might have just been one of these. But these are the 3 ways I can think of for you to teach your peers something. If you're in person, you can do a lecture, a workshop, or a demo just in person. In all these cases, we're talking about a 15-minute experience for your audience. So that's something that if you're coming to class in person, you could do in person. You could do it live online. This could be done in a Zoom kind of thing or in a Discord channel, but the idea would be over video. If you do it that way, you don't have to appear on the video, but you would be leading people through something in an interactive way. So you would be saying, try this, and then they would try that, and then you would say, how did it go? And then they would tell you, and then you would respond, and then adapt your instruction based on that. So that's the kind of thing I would like to see if you do it online. Or you could do a lecture, although I mean, those are not as much fun, honestly. So yeah, your mileage will vary, but I'll let you choose. But I do think workshops are better. Or you could simply pre-record something. And this is, I put this as option 3 because I hope one of the first options works out for you, options 1 or 2. Like I hope that you can do this live. But if you can't, that's reasonable. For many of you, that really is the best choice. So if you'd like to do it that way, again, it's about a 15-minute experience. You won't be able to do anything interactive in this case. You would just be putting it out there. But again, it would be about 15 minutes. You wouldn't have to appear on screen visually if you don't want to, but you would have to have some kind of content prepared in about 15 minutes. Okay, so these are the options for the structure of it. And I'm obviously going to write some more detail into this assignment page to explain things like, what are you teaching? And there are going to be 2 teaching days. One of them, the first one, is going to be something related to the topic that you're studying. So if your big project has to do with climate change, your first teaching topic has to do with climate change. The second peer teaching date assigned to you is when you'll talk about your method or tool or software or whatever you're doing. So if you are doing a podcast about climate change, your second peer teaching will be about podcasting. So that's the topic. Your audience will be at least your squad, but I will do it in such a way where you'll know what all the different topics are. So if there's something you really want to see, then you could switch into that and view that or participate in that if you'd like to. So that's a explanation of the peer teaching. Do you have any questions about the peer teaching? Again, I'm going to be adding more content to the descriptions, to the descriptions of the assignments, including the topics that you'll be covering. But these are the modalities that I can think of. If you can think of another one, then please let me know. Okay. Can you think of anything else, Darlene? I can't think of anything. I mean, you're either in person or online, and if you're online, you're either live or not. So it's like, within all that, you've got different options. But as far as the modalities, that's pretty much the 3. Okay, good. So I think that's all I wanted to cover for the live stream. Is there anything on the people watching online that you'd like for me to show you or talk about before I wrap it up? If not, I'm going to wrap it up. Okay, I'm just checking on Twitter, because I posted on Twitter to see if anybody could remind me the name of that prism searching game, and no one so far has reminded me. No one knows what I'm talking about yet. What is that? I don't know who that is. Okay, somebody replied or liked my tweet, but I don't know who that is. Okay, good. So I'm going to wrap up the stream. If you have questions or want to talk about things, let me know. I'll be chatting in person with the people who are here. If you're online and you want to reach out, feel free to. I'm going to be, of course, releasing the feedback. If you haven't seen it yet, I will be doing that soon, tonight and tomorrow, probably mostly tomorrow, just to get that done. But if in the meantime, if you are really desperate to hear something, or if you need to know something before you start or commit to it, please reach out, and I can either prioritize your feedback or just set up a conversation and we can talk about it. Okay, great. So I'm going to wrap up the stream. Thanks for watching. Hope you all have a good afternoon. See you later.